I've clearly picked a side in the culture war that we're in, but I don't want that to indicate. I think we have this way of, oh, I love apples. Oh, you're saying oranges are awful. There's this partisan mentality that a lot of people do have, but I don't. And I think you have to be able to call a spade, and you have to see where your own side is wrong. And so you have to be able to read what people who don't agree with you think of you, and you have to be able to strongman, Iron Man, Steel Man, what it is that they say about you, and you have to answer legitimate critiques. So this morning, I have my worship group, and we were talking about the Democrat Party and how problematic their platform is, and how gross this USAID stuff is coming out. And I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. But then I started, I wouldn't say it's devil's advocate, but steel manning the other side. And here's what the other side sounds like in my head. I haven't heard anybody say this, but I would assume that a lot of people are saying this. USAID is when we're talking about all these different funds, it's less than 1% of the U.S. budget, federal budget. A much bigger part of it is the U.S. defense budget. And Eisenhower warned us on his way out the door of the military-industrial complex. That's almost certainly what was behind the JFK assassination. We'll find out soon, all the documents being released. But neoconservative war hawks have carried the day for decades in Washington, D.C., and have misappropriated billions of dollars. The Pentagon has not passed an audit for years because they just lose stuff and they can't account for stuff. And the budget is so big that no auditing firm even wants to try and track things down. When you want to talk about what it is that is guilty of the most waste and what it is that is guilty of spreading the most heinous evil around the world, it's not USAID. As gross as that stuff is, it's the U.S. military budget that creates forever wars from neoconservative, hawkish leadership. It's been the case for decades. Now, the weird thing that's happening right now is the war hawks are on the left all of a sudden. But you can't really be too upset with people who still think that the war hawks are on the right. And there's still plenty like, oh, heck, what is his name? The eye patch guy that I actually kind of like. But there are so many people that are behind all kinds of foreign interventionism. When we're trying to figure out who's causing the most harm, the most damage, neither side is pure. And in fact, the side that has the most clarity about it right now might have the most blood on their hands. So I do all that not to be argumentative or, to offend and lose all of them. What I'm hoping is that we can all entertain these things and hear a criticism. Now, that having been said, I think that's a fair criticism, and I hope we hear it. I hope Tulsi Gabbard helps get us on a very different footing with respect to the rest of the world, and that here in a few years, it would be great if our hands were a little bit cleaner. I would love that. There are other critiques that I just think are not fair, and I think we have to answer lovingly, not be so incensed. How could you possibly say that? But I saw a guy used to be connected to my church. This hurt my feelings this morning. Here, I got to move this over so you can see it better. Sorry. It's love your neighbor, feed the poor, heal the sick, welcome the stranger. There's nothing Republican Christians hate more than the teachings of Jesus. I just almost posted on this person's wall, hey man, you used to walk hand in hand with Republicans, and you know that they don't run from these scriptures, that they worship the same Jesus. The only disagreement here is really the proper role of the state. If this is the culture that we're in, these are the people we're trying to minister to and love. They see, and to be frank, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a registered Republican. I'm not an unofficial Republican. I'm registered as a libertarian. I haven't even voted libertarian. I know a lot of y'all hate me for that, for the voting record stuff. But the thing is, I know and love and respect a lot of Republicans. They're people who take their faith very seriously, and they read the whole Bible, and they know that they're called to love their neighbor, feed the poor, heal the sick, and welcome the stranger. They just don't want the government to do it for them. They think the onus and responsibility is on individual believers and their churches, and that is in fact what actually solves these problems. That homelessness is not going away, that the dysfunction of mental illness and homelessness and addiction, that these things are being promulgated by a system that needs those things and people are getting wealthy off of. And we as believers, seeing the world with eyes unclouded, cannot continue to perpetuate these systems that harm the poor and the least of these. We have to actually engage them, love them, know them. Sure, not all. Some Republicans, sure, hey, get those dirty people away from me. I don't want anything to do with them. Sure, that is a caricature. A caricature exists because sometimes it's true, right? But even so, there are tons of conscientious people with a heart for the poor who lean right. And I just think this sort of thing is so unfortunate. And I know that there's stuff that is on the right that just dehumanizes people on the left as well. I just don't think it's helpful, So with anything that you're going to put on, and maybe I stand convicted from this too, but anything that you're going to put online that's coded left, right, make sure it's a fair response to the other side rather than a caricature that doesn't really correspond with many of them.